Thank you again to everybody that's joined us today for this fourth session of the 2020 AgrAbility Virtual National Training Workshop. My name is Paul Jones. I'm the manager of the National AgrAbility Project that's headquartered here at Purdue University. Our topic this afternoon is USDA's AgVets Program and also the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network Program. And we're thankful to Brent Elrod from USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture to share with us about those programs. Some of you may not be familiar with AgrAbility. It is a program supported by USDA NIFA, and we work to improve quality of life for farmers and ranchers and other people in agriculture that have disabilities. Every AgrAbility project is a partnership between a land-grant university and at least one nonprofit disability services organization. We have 20 projects around the country right now. In addition, there is one National AgrAbility project, which I mentioned is led here at Purdue University through the Breaking New Ground Resource Center. Our partners on that project, apart from NIFA, include Goodwill of the Finger Lakes, APRIL, which is the Association of Programs for Rural Independent Living, Colorado State University, and Washington State University. If you'd like more information about AgrAbility, there's plenty of it at agrability.org, a lot of resources, and approximately 80 previously recorded webinars that you might be interested in. At this point, I'm going to pass the presentation ball to Brent Elrod. I will mute my microphone and cut off my camera until we get ready for the poll section, and I'll turn things over to Brent.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon to, it looks like, our 46 signed-in participants. Congratulations to you. You're going to get the first insight into a couple upcoming grant announcements for two of our relatively newest programs at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. You see their names there, their acronyms on screen. I'll be referencing them as AgVets and FRSAN for ease as we move through the slides. We have about 30 slides today, so I'm going to try not to kill you by PowerPoint, give you the basics, and then hopefully we'll be able to spend quite a bit of time in Q&A so that you have specific questions about each of the opportunities. Mind you, this is not an applicant webinar. You are getting a preview, but the RFAs are still in development, and so with that in mind, any information I share with you today, just recognize is pre-decisional and that could change. Some of the exceptions, of course, would be the language in the legislative authorities for each of the programs. Obviously, that's what Congress provided, and that's what we'll go by. But some of the specifics or mechanics of the actual announcements, you'll want to tune back in when we formally post the RFAs. And just so that I don't make you wait too long for that information, I'll just share it up front. Both of these RFAs are in development, and we anticipate late winter, early spring postings for both announcements. Just keep that in mind, and I'll give you some information. You'll see the actual URLs later in the program today where you can bookmark, and we'll put the information up when it's loaded. And of course, you can set filters in grants.gov to get announcements when programs of interest are released that you have identified. So again, I'd like to welcome you, and I'd like to thank our host, the AgrAbility Virtual National Training Workshop, our partners at AgrAbility and their collaborators. I'd like to thank the project director, Bill Field, and all his team for the marvelous work that they do from the national office to help administer and grow the AgrAbility program across this great nation. My name is Brent Elrod. I'm a national program leader in community economic development. I also have acting titles as a result of the relocation from Washington, D.C. to Kansas City. So I'm currently acting in 3 roles as Division Director for Youth and 4-H, Division Director for Family and Consumer Sciences, and Division Director for Community and Education. All that to say, I am one of the folks who made the move and a good contact for you as you reach out to us for additional information. So that slide there is just one I put in from DC to KC to illustrate our new headquartered locations. We're not in the tall cylindrical building. That is the World War I Memorial. And if you've never been to Kansas City, it was quite one of the first stops that I made when I made the move to Kansas City. And you can go up into the top, and you've got marvelous views of the downtown, which you see from there, and also just a tremendous history throughout the entire monument to our veterans from World War I and the sacrifices that they made to ensure the protection of our homeland, the security of you and I and our families and our generations going forward. We owe them all and all veterans an incredible debt. So I just wanted to give you my contact information early rather than later in case you have to move off and you want to follow through. As I heard Paul share, this is being recorded and will be archived so you can return back to it. You can also reach out to me directly. That's me hiding behind the plant there as Secretary Perdue made the rounds at our temporary location at the Beacon Center in Kansas City and was gracious enough to welcome those of us that made the move. And you see him, well, he's not in that picture up top, but you see the NIFA staff and our director to the right of the Kansas City sign, Dr. Scott Engel, as we got a chance to tour what will become the permanent headquarters in downtown Kansas City. So if we go back and are looking from here, that building is going to be down about here. So you see the Sprint Center, and we're going to be just a little here, just above the river. And so once we do get established in the new headquarters, it's certainly a place for, hopefully, for folks to come and visit, get a chance to learn more about what we're doing, along with our other DC agency that made the move, the Economic Research Service. So today's agenda, I'm going to talk about two upcoming requests for application, the AgVets Program and the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. And we're going to follow that with question and answer. What I shared here in this particular slide is a number of folks that worked for NIFA, and some continue to, that were military veterans that came and joined our agency post-military service. I'm sure that we have a number of veterans on the line. I saw Cindy Chastain's name in the participant list, and want to acknowledge all the veteran service, the sacrifice that they made, and again, their continuing efforts to improve the outlook for individuals, families, communities, and our nation as a whole. So let's get started with AgVets. Here's the purpose. It's a competitive grant program for projects that provide training and services to establish and enhance farming and ranching opportunities for military veterans. It's one of two programs that NIFA has that specifically target military veterans. One is called the Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Program. There's actually an applicant webinar going on for that new fiscal year 20 cycle that's open right now. So that was also being recorded, and you can reach out to the program leader through me, and I will ensure that you get access to the link or to the slides from that particular presentation. You can also go to the website for Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Program at NIFA to access the RFA. So that one is open. And if you're interested in serving military veterans, and especially those that are new to farming and ranching, then BFRDP is the place to go. And as I shared, I was on that webinar prior to joining this one. That one is it really is to get veterans that are new to the experience of producing agriculture and giving them opportunities through training and education. It really would be a starter program before somebody came and applied to AgVets. AgVets is really intended for established programs that are ready to scale up. There on the screen in that photo is Colonel Gary LaGrange. He's the former project director for SAVE, Vocational Education and Farming Program that was one of our successful applicants in the first round of funding for AgVets. So eligibility, are you as the person on the line representing an organization that fits one of these categories? Well, it's limited here in terms of nonprofit organizations. And you see the subcategories there. This is the definition that we follow. And this does not include institutions of higher education. And so just for purposes, all of our programs, again, based upon how Congress sets them up, can have different eligibility requirements. So where Paul was indicating that every AgrAbility program has to include a land-grant university and a non-governmental organization, in this case, land grants may not be lead institutions in submitting to the AgVets program. They can be sub-awardees or come on in terms of a contracting or an evaluation role. And so just be sure to understand the eligibility requirements before you start to put together an application to the program. So we're going to make multiple awards, and I've put that bullet amount and project period to be determined. We currently have $5 million from each of the last two appropriations, fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, to go out to bid for. The question internally, are we going to go out for all $10 million this cycle, or because these are what we call two-year funds, we have 2 years of eligibility to release them, that we do 5 and then 5 the following cycle. So at this point, look back, we may combine the amounts, and if so, then there's going to be $10 million available, which would be multiple awards. In the past, of the previous 2 cycles, we've done up to $1 million for each of the projects, and in each of the past 2 cycles, that's the length of the program, 6 projects have been funded for a total of 12. So, but we also anticipate in this particular cycle, based upon stakeholder feedback, to do smaller amounts and more awards. So feel free to reach out again, especially once the applicant webinar is scheduled, to talk to us about your interest in this program. So just a little bit more about AgVets. These are what we call training and outreach projects, and you see there in the additional language what that means. Programs and activities to deliver science-based knowledge and informal educational programs to veterans through an immersive on-site learning experience, leading to a comprehensive understanding of successful farm, ranch, operation, management practices. So just to unpack that a little further, we're really looking for programs that are going to help veterans in this next career path, this next endeavor in terms of their interests post-military service. We want more farmers and ranchers. We need them desperately. But we also want to take advantage of the skills that they may have learned in the military for whatever that career opportunity might be the most direct route. Were they flying drones over, in the last 2 wars? If so, then is that potentially something that can be applied to agricultural engineering? Is it potentially then to practices where they're controlling drones that are administering pesticides to non-organic operations? Did they do things in terms of logistics? So can they help us in terms of the supply chain? Is that in terms of driving a truck? Is that in terms of setting up a supply chain that's more efficient? Those are all possibilities. So we really encourage folks to look at this announcement and then think big in terms of what their opportunities to, based upon their interests, to match skills with the various interests of the military service member. AgrAbility is suggested as a partner in this particular announcement and will be in subsequent. We know that some veterans come back needing assistive technology. They may have a physical disability or an emotional or mental disability as a result of their service. We want to make sure that they are included in their opportunities. There is specific language in this RFA writing to that. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a couple grant pages for you to follow. And if you right now want to just do a Control-Alt print screen and do a copy and paste into your own screen to capture this page, you can also pull out your phone and take a picture so that you've got it. And you can also just go to one of your browsers and search NIFA AgVets, and it'll probably be the first thing that'll pop up. That's a page for you to bookmark because that's the first place that I will post information about the applicant webinar and when the RFA is released. In addition, there will be a dedicated page on the grants.gov website. Once the RFA goes live. So as I mentioned, late winter into early spring for you to be looking there, as I mentioned and referenced right here. It's one of the keys with this particular program is there's no matching requirement. So especially smaller entities, collaborative groups, you have that opportunity here to submit for the full amount without having to come up with any kind of match. We're grateful for that opportunity with this particular program. All right, I don't know how well this slide will read on your screen, but what I did was post the 6 awardees from the fiscal year 19 cohort. From that previous page, I've got the fiscal year 18 and 19 listed at both of those. So you can go to that page and see the others. But I've also taken the liberty of including phone numbers and email addresses for key personnel that are assigned to these projects. And you can reach out to them directly if they are willing to have a conversation with you about their program and what they're doing. In addition, potentially before even doing that, you can go back through our website and you'll be able to click on each of those proposals and learn and see the abstracts for each of these projects. So you see there we've got a project in Hawaii, Southwest, this is New Mexico, Arizona. We've got the Agri Center offering services primarily across Tennessee. Hoosier Uplands, Indiana work. Patriots Garden is targeting West Virginia. Fort Hood, clearly out in Texas. So we've got good representation geographically and also different particular interests that are being served. So you can tailor your own program, but it's always important to get a sense of what's currently being funded, because as we put together a panel that is going to review the proposals, we're going to want something that is new, innovative, and not duplicative or too similar to what's already being done. So it's really important to know the lay of the land, know what's already being funded before you submit your application. If it's too close, if it seems duplicative to reviewers, then it probably won't score high and may not be successful in terms of an application. Okay, I'm going back there. All right, forward. And I just took the liberty of putting up one of the projects as an example. I saw Linda Tarr in the participant list, and she's been instrumental in helping to develop this program and now administer it. She works closely with her project director, Michael Edwards. And there's a name that many of you, especially with AgrAbility focus, is dear to your heart. Dr. William Field, who's helped found AgrAbility and continues to provide leadership. He's a co-PD here. And then each project is also required to have an independent evaluation. And so in this successful project, Dr. French is leading that particular effort. So here, again, is an example of some of the requirements that they have listed for us. I'm not going to read through all these. You can read it there at your leisure. But you'll see one of the key pieces that reviewers liked was the depth, that there were going to be multiple locations and internship sites. And then here, down this last bullet, complemented by skills training and industry-specific certifications appropriate for each veteran's career aspirations. And that was something that reviewers thought very highly of, because it was clear then that they were looking to match and align the expertise that military veterans were coming out of service with their aspirations for next opportunities. Here's a couple of the objectives. These should be similar across almost all of the projects, because what we're talking about is jobs. This is education and training leading to workforce development. And so then you see some of the mechanics for how they intended to get there. And just so you know, they are just getting started. This is year 1 of their project. So they are just getting underway. So we're not expecting to see a lot of findings at this point. But these are 3-year projects as currently written for the first 2 cohorts. One of the decision points that we still have left in developing the RFA for this next cycle is will we do shorter cycles and smaller amounts and or include larger projects and lengthier periods of performance. So probably some combination of that in this next RFA, but again, as I mentioned, pre-decisional. Here are their partners, and so again, as you are going to consider this particular announcement in a future cycle, you can't expect to do this alone. It really is critical that you involve multiple other partners. The RFA requires it. And these last two bullets, we want to make sure that every AgVets program, that the participants understand how they can access and engage with other USDA programs, not just the funding NIFA has provided, but then how do they go to Farm Service Agency and secure a loan? How do they go to Natural Resource Conservation Service and get an EQIP loan to work on conservation? If they've got forest on their lands, how do they engage with Forest Service to ensure that it's going to be a profitable exercise for them? In addition, NIFA funds other programs, as many of you know: Cooperative Extension Service, Extension Risk Management Education, Regional Rural Development Centers. We want these programs to be comprehensive so that the veteran that participates comes out feeling completely empowered to be successful in that career endeavor. So I've said this a couple different times, but I just want to repeat it. Late winter, early spring. Be sure to sign up and attend the applicant webinar when we announce it. And this last bullet here in terms of serving as a peer panel reviewer. Again, some of you on this call have served as peer reviewers for us in other programs. I encourage you, if you are not going to submit a proposal or be a party to a proposal in any way, then consider joining us as a peer reviewer. It is a confidential process in terms of if you do indicate to me later that you're willing to serve, then we protect your confidentiality as part of the process. And we give you the skills to be successful as a reviewer, and you bring the expertise of the knowledge of what will make a good program based upon the evaluation criteria to help us then choose and select the best programs. That's how we operate on almost all of our programs at NIFA, and it is a great way. I say it is one of the best ways to also develop the skills to help you write better proposals. So if you're new to the process and thinking, oh, I'm going to get my hands on this money, I would say you got time to take a step back, review with us for a year, learn the process from the inside, and then go back and write your proposal in a subsequent cycle and increase your chances of being successful. If you don't do that, you are competing against folks who have written successful proposals to NIFA in the past, and it's hard to compete well unless you really spend a lot of time, do your due diligence, do your background research, put together the right team. I'd say increase your chances by helping us in the review process. That I'll mention both for the next program as well. So we're right at 2:30, so I'll go through these next slides a little more quickly because some of the nuances, or at least the process mechanics, are the same. What's different, of course, is the content. This is the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network Competitive Grants Program. Here's the grant page, and again, if you want to do a Control-Alt-Print screen to copy that, or take your phone and snapshot real quick, I will hold here before I move on to the program basics. What I will share is that, while I mentioned NIFA has moved from DC to Casey, I'm back in DC today. So I'm actually joining you from downtown DC, just near the Capitol. I was called back today to participate in a briefing for members of Congress and their staff in the House Ag Committee around the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. This program was originally authorized in the 2008 Farm Bill. It was reauthorized in the 2018 Farm Bill and received its first appropriations in 2019. and 19 for $2 million. And so that's what we went out to bid for in the previous cycle. Those of you that have been following this particular program know that it's authorized in the Farm Bill at up to $10 million annually, and in the fiscal year 20 appropriation, we have received the full $10 million. So Congress is, of course, interested in what happened with the first $2 million, and then what our plans are for this 10 in this particular cycle. So if you're doing your math between the two programs that we're talking about, there's the potential availability for $20 million over the course of both of these announcements. And in this particular program, based upon the Farm Bill authorization, which is for 5 years, if we get a full allocation of $10 million over the next 3 cycles, we're talking another $30 million in addition to the 12 that Congress has provided taxpayer funding to support this. Why are they providing this particular support? Many of you know the answer. Farmers have been experiencing some level of crisis associated with the various challenges, whether it's markets, disasters, whether it's just individual stress associated with the day-to-day grind of having to do the hard work, putting the crops in the ground and growing the livestock. We know farming and ranching is a challenging, difficult endeavor. Those of you that with AgrAbility experience, you couple that with a disability of any kind, and it becomes that much more complex and an effort to address. All those challenges can make it difficult for folks to get to the basics and get connected with the services and supports that can help them. Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network is designed to help mitigate some of those challenges. Here's the basics of the program. Establish a network that connects individuals who are engaged in farming, ranching, or other ag-related occupations to stress assistance programs. You see below that, establishing a network that assists farmers and ranchers in times of stress can offer a conduit to improving behavioral health awareness, literacy, and outcomes for agricultural producers, workers, and their families. Here's the eligibility piece, and as I mentioned at the outset, eligibility differs across our programs based upon how Congress sees folks that should be included to address the challenges. You see those entities: Indian tribes, state departments of ag, state cooperative extension services, and non-governmental organizations. So what you know across AgrAbility now, across AgVets, across FRSAN, is that NGOs are eligible in each instance to serve as a collaborative partner. And that's one of the things that, if you have a takeaway today that you think about the role the government can play in order to make a difference in the lives of individuals, families, and their communities, here's great illustrations of the work that taxpayer dollars can and are doing. So in our initial announcement, we asked for regional networks across the West, North Central, Northeast, and the South. And like the previous program, there is no matching requirement here. In 2020, we anticipate making multiple awards. The period of performance at this point, we are looking at a 12-month period of performance, which would start September 1st of 20 and run through August 31st of 21. The amount and range of those awards we have yet to determine. That's one of the pieces that we're still under development. So here you see the long-term goal is to establish a network that provides stress assistance program to individuals who are engaged in farming, ranching, and other agricultural-related occupations at the regional and state and local level. And here are the key categories of service that are required based upon the language that Congress has provided in the Farm Bill. So the successful applicants will have to provide some combination of these services: farm, telephone, helplines, and websites. Training. These include training and programs and workshops for advocates for individuals who are engaged in farming, ranching, and other occupations, as well as other individuals and entities that may assist these individuals, also those that are in crisis. Third subcategory of service are support groups, and the final subcategory is outreach services and activities, including the dissemination of information and materials. This language will not change in the new announcement. So here, for the first time for many, are the successful applicants to the FRSAN fiscal year 19. The first, and I've listed email addresses and phones again and names of the project directors. Natalie Roy is with AgriSafe. Don McMorrin is with Washington State University Extension. David Brown is with Iowa State University Extension. And Martin Lemos is with the National Young Farmers Coalition. Again, if you go to our website, the dedicated web page, this one right here, your bottom bullet, then you can also click through to get to the abstracts for each of those programs to get a better understanding or a little more in-depth detail of what each of these projects has proposed. They're all just getting underway. So they may not have a lot to share at this point in terms of actual deliverables, but you can see through those abstracts what they have indicated that they're doing, and so feel free to reach out to them. And I'll just mention too, when we talk about networks, I want to be clear that these are the lead entities, but in each instance there are multiple partners serving multiple states within that region. For example, AgriSafe and their partners are serving 11 states and 2 territories in the southern region. The Iowa State effort is targeting 8 states and 8 different cooperative extension programs across the north central region. The National Young Farmers Coalition includes Farm Aid and Vermont First and other partners in their particular proposal. So if you are thinking about this announcement, then it's critical that you identify what exists, what's working, where the gaps are, and how they can best be filled. Again, when we actually get to the release of the RFA and I do this applicant webinar, then we'll drill down in a little more detail in terms of what some of those expectations are. We're also making some determinations about does somebody need to serve a whole region, or can they serve 1 or 2 states within a region? As I mentioned on the previous, I'll repeat it here. If this is an area that you're interested in, but maybe aren't ready or equipped to put together a proposal during this cycle, we welcome your interest in potentially serving as a peer reviewer. And I've got just a little more information right here on this slide. In this particular case, whether it's AgVets or FRSAN, include that as in the subject line, and then provide these 3 bullets: a brief description of your experience and expertise with respect either vets to ag, AgVets, or ag mental health stress, in this case FRSAN. And if it's both, then let us know if it's both. But we want to make sure that you have requisite experience and expertise to qualify you as a reviewer within this peer review process. Obviously, your full contact information, and then whether you plan to be included in any role on a proposal this year. The answer with that would have to be no. If you say yes or you're thinking about it, then we will not consider you for a reviewer. We have to protect the integrity of the process, and certainly if you do come on as a reviewer, again, it's the expectation that, and you plan to submit in a future cycle, that you do so based upon the experience that you have and nothing that you've learned related to content or delivery of a particular project that you have vetted in a cycle. So we're very careful, cautious about that. We need to protect the integrity of the process. If somebody submits an application, and whether they're successful or not, we want to protect all of their technical information and how they go about doing something. So again, think about this. If you have questions, then reach out directly to Ms. Turner. She'll be the one that can respond on our behalf with any particular questions. All right, so it looks like we're approaching 20 till, so we'll be right on time for question and answers. Smokey the Bear there says if it's about forest fires, probably ask somebody else, but if it's about Farm and Ranch, AgVets, or my sweet and loving mom who you see pictured there, I'm happy to answer any of those questions. So I'll turn it back to Paul and see how he wants to handle it.
Okay, thanks very much, Brent, for that information. We appreciate all that, and I have put links to many of the websites that you mentioned in the presentation in the chat area for the participants to go ahead and click on if they would like to do that. Okay, there's one question.
So, Paul, is it possible to open Ann's mic and ask her? I'm trying to read that. I'm guessing Veterans Administration and not Virginia Farms, but I just I want to make sure I understand
okay.
if she's available.
Let me check real quick. Ann, I have unmuted your connection. Would you be able to share the question verbally?
Yes. Can you hear me? I'm on a phone connection. Can you hear me well enough?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I just became aware of a program, and I'm trying to pull it up in my account. It's called VA Farms, and it's through Veterans Affairs Farming and Recovery Mental Health Services, and they're calling it VA Farms, which is a pilot program. And apparently there are 9 other sites throughout the country that are run through Office of Rural Health. Does that?
Got it.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking it was, and but I'm always surprised just the breadth and reach of the federal government sometimes that we aren't alert to what one another are doing. But in this particular case, we are. They got a similar amount of money in the federal budget that we did for AgVets a couple cycles back, maybe around $3 million. And we had conversations with the VA Office of Rural Health about potentially aligning our efforts. And so they went out, they have a separate grant, well, actually it's a contracting process. So our mechanics prevented us from being able to combine funding, and timing was also going to make it very difficult. But we're alert to what one another are doing. There's an evaluator that is helping to administer some of that effort called Karen Westerman-Dahan, who I also coordinate with in terms of some of our efforts here related to AgVets. She was at our most recent project director meeting. We are talking about shared interest around the outcomes of the evaluation. So we'll continue to have those conversations going forward as these programs continue to pilot. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ann, for that question. One more here. Let's see if we can pull that up. Okay, are you able to see that one?
Yes, I do. So I'll just read it out loud since this is being recorded too. With the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network, will new applicants be potentially competing against, and then parenthetically, or replacing already funded regional centers? So in this particular instance, all applicants will compete equally, including the 4 new awardees and anyone that's interest. So there was no specific language in the initial RFA about our ability to limit that competition. And because these were relatively new, word of the project being relatively new, and we were only open for bid for about 30 days in the initial cycle, just based on the timing when we got the funding from Congress, it will be an open competition. So in this particular instance, those that are just getting underway will be on equal footing with any new applicants.
Okay. All right, let me just double check to see if there are any more questions in the chat right now. It does not look like it right now, so we will keep the chat, the presentation area open in case anyone wants to copy or click on the links that were in there to the other opportunities. And let's see, just checking again. Okay, it looks like no more questions right now, Brent. So again, thanks very much for providing this information, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of people that are interested in following up with the announcements and all the things that go along with that. So,
thanks, Paul, for hosting.
Again, if anyone's interested in more webinars in this web conference, we'll be here again tomorrow at noon, and we wish you a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.